Good morning to the people of our beloved Twin Island Republic State. Today, I am going to focus on behalf of our great and glorious party, the United National Congress, what we would like to describe as the scam of the century. The scam of the century. 2 decades of P&M inspired robbery of the people, of you, the taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago. Let us understand that the P&M playbook has been at work for almost 2 decades. The Niquan gas to liquids project that has now gone belly up did not start yesterday, did not start in 2012, did not start in 2016, did not start in 2019. Is not about to go belly up in 2024 May or approximately thereabouts. No. It started 2 decades ago. It was a virtual cash cow that the P&M was milking by fleecing the taxpayers of billions and billions and billions of dollars. Understand this? You know, there's a saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Shame on me. This is the saga of Niquan Energy Trinidad Limited. From Malcolm Jones, Ken Julian, David Lauren, a smart man out of New York, peddling the impossible dream of gas to liquids and zero sulfur fuel, selling a dream to Malcolm Jones, Ken Julian, Patrick Manning, the deceased. And I want you to remember, Imbert, the 3.4 billion era Minister of Finance, was part of the cabinet when that decision was taken to get into what is called the World GTL project. Never forget that. Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley was part of the cabinet when the scam was unfolded and hatched against the people of Trinidad and Tobago. It cost us, the taxpayers, and we are still paying for it today. Over $3 billion. That was the world GTL pipe dream that they sold the population in 2004. And when they demitted office in 2010, cost overruns, huge delays, and scrap iron was the result, was the end result. It cost the taxpayers over $3 billion. No one was held accountable, even though the People's Partnership brought a civil suit against Malcolm Jones and his entire board for their breach of their fiduciary duties and responsibilities to the taxpayers through Petrotrin, amounting to $1.2 billion. We got advice from who? Vincent Nelson. And that constituted the basis for our civil action against Malcolm Jones and his entire board. But what did Alwari do? What did Rowley do? What did Imber do? They withdrew the civil suit when they took power in 2015. And Malcolm Jones was brought on the steering committee on energy. And he was exonerated by the PNM. And the civil suit was withdrawn. That was the PNM. That is what they did. So I want you, as I get into some details on this scam of the century, this con job on the taxpayers, never forget that the Ramkissoon family lost their sole breadwinner in an explosion. Never forget that at that plant. 80 employees are now on the breadline as a result of this scam and this con job by the PNM. And I will show how you and me, the taxpayers of this country, have underwritten this sweetheart agreement. And we may still be called upon to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to Niquan directors, officers, note holders, and other shareholders and stakeholders. Bear this in mind carefully, ladies and gentlemen. I have before me in the Express, page 10, Friday the 17th of May, 2024, headlined, Niquan gets default rating from CARICREST. Look at here. This was on Friday, the 17th. Regionally, they have defaulted as far as CARICREST is concerned. Nationally, they have defaulted in Trinidad and Tobago. Several note holders and secured parties. Monies are jumping up in a band after they were encouraged by the government from all reasonable perspectives. The government promoted Niquan as an investment opportunity. And they encourage through their utterances publicly and otherwise investors to part with their investment into Niquan. Never forget this. What we are told in this article is that the estimated total debt of Niquan as at the end of March 2024 stood at 450 million US dollars or 3.1 billion TT dollars. That is what we were told by Carrie Kress in this article. And they said that Niquan, like Michael Leachin, is in default. They can't pay. They borrowed money and they can't pay back the people who they borrowed the money from. Members of the media, let me tell you, upon research conducted not only by us, but by several others, this gas to liquids project, this green fuel energy project, this zero sulfur project was not possible, was not commercialized in any part of the world. It was never commercially, technically feasible in any part of the world. Yet still, our government, having failed us between 2004 and 2010, when Patrick Manning, deceased, was Prime Minister, he invested over $3 billion that we got scrap iron at the end of the exercise for. They didn't learn anything. You had a minister who is now Prime Minister in the cabinet of Patrick Manning, who approved the WGTL project. Dr. Rowley must be made accountable. The people of Trinidad and Tobago for the $3 billion in wastage. We must bowl to Dr. Rowley's chest and invert that $3 billion that we lost. And you come 20 years later, and in a sweetheart deal, you gone a second time into a failed project. Members of the media, why would a government do such a thing? Why would a government, knowing full well that we had lost $3 billion between 2004 to 2010, and then in 2012, an approach was made to buy the scrap iron by Ainsley Gill, from Malcolm Jones to Ainsley Gill, from Malcolm Jones to Alwari, from Malcolm Jones to the Prime Minister, from Malcolm Jones to the Minister of Finance. It was the Minister of Finance in March of 2016 or April that approved the sale of WGTL to Niquan. Never forget that. I have the letter signed, sealed, and delivered by who? The Minister of Finance. I have something called the Bentia mortgage here. Look at here. At the Bentia mortgage. Taken out in 2019. It's here. In this document, the PNM government sold out the interests of the people to Niquan. Members of the media, you can take a picture of it at the end of the day. I want you to look at, it's a registered document, page 4 of the appendix, and you'll see the following. They took our land. They took our land at Pointe-à-Pierre, over 4 hectares of land, and they leased it to Niquan. All the plant, all the machinery, all the fixtures, they leased that machinery to Niquan. You know, that was the collateral, members of the media, that they used to borrow money from Republic Bank. They used the assets of the people that Ainsley, Gill, and Niquan paid $35 million US for. 25 million in preferential shares. In other words, we loan Niquan $25 million to buy the land, to buy our assets. That's what a preferential share is. It's a loan. And then they paid us 10 million in US. That makes up the 35 million. But you know what is even more shocking in this document? Members, it is under the item government approvals. Look at here. You could come and take it after. Government approval. Niquan was exempted from not paying any VAT on anything that they imported in the country. No VAT. VAT for you, members of the media. VAT for you, members of the public. VAT for me. VAT for us. But no VAT for Niquan. Niquan was able to import anything and everything duty-free through customs. No duties. But they want you to pay duties on something you bought from Amazon. 7.5% tax on Amazon that you import. But duty-free for Niquan and the Paliwals. You know what happened? They got an off-take agreement with Petrotrin to take 100% of their products that they produce or they were supposed to produce. A sweetheart agreement. 100% of whatever. And they were supposed to produce 2,400 barrels of pure non-sulfur fuel, which Petrotrin was supposed to take. They got gas at a sweetheart price, $3.65 per MMBTU. They were supposed to be paying $6.565. We on the road, Niquan, you and I, The people of Trinidad and Tobago, they had an interconnection for electricity through Petrotrin. We have concluded, unless they deny, they got free electricity through Petrotrin. Niquan, from what we have seen, unless they deny otherwise, got free electricity from Petrotrin. They have a water deal or agreement with WASA. We haven't seen it. So we don't know what is the arrangement with WASA. So, members of the media, this is criminal misconduct. This is misconduct in public office. You want us to pay property tax? You want us to pay VAT? You want us to pay duties on matters that we import from Amazon if we go on online shopping? But these fellas get away scotch-free. No withholding tax. It's here. They are not to pay any withholding tax. Members of the media, all the approvals were facilitated by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Everyone. And it is outlined here in this document. And the most grievous of sins was when they took our land and used it as collateral to borrow money through note holders from Republic Bank of Trinidad and Tobago. This is a national scandal that requires an independent criminal forensic investigation, starting with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, Faris Alwari, he's the one who withdrew the civil lawsuit amounting to $1.2 billion that was brought by the People's Partnership against Malcolm Jones and his entire board. And Wari withdrew that civil suit. He must account for that. And Mr. Stuart Young, you must account too, because you were the attorney representing Malcolm Jones in this civil lawsuit before Rowley and that gang that runs this country chose to withdraw the civil lawsuit. And then you get them a sweetheart agreement. I have a court document which is public, which you don't have to be worried about because it's stamped by the court and you can go and get it for yourself. 12 parties arrived on the doorstep of the High Court based on a petition to wind up Niquan. The petition was brought by one David Small, who was a former vice president of that company. And when I tell you the names of the parties, you will understand what this thing is about. By the way, I want to ask Republic Bank. I want to ask the Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, what due diligence, what technical feasibility study was done on this project before you invested monies from Petrotrin, from the National Gas Company, from Republic Bank, from the First Citizens Bank. Tell Trinidad and Tobago what due diligence you conducted to determine the viability of this project. I don't want to believe, ladies and gentlemen of the media, I challenge the government to produce for your consumption the technical feasibility study that they generated in order to go ahead with this project. I call on them to produce any due diligence that was conducted before they allow Republic Bank, and I'll call a number of banks that have invested in this project. Here are the creditors who appeared on the scene. And when was that, members? This was just recently at the level of the court. They appeared. I think it was the 4th of May. I can get the date for you shortly. The first group is the Junior Sammy group. It's here. The Junior Sammy group. I want to ask Junior Sammy on behalf of himself and on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, confirm or deny. Are you being owed by Niquan close to $100 million? I want to find out on behalf of the people. How much money is Junior Sammy Group owed by Niquan? Because he appeared in court. And we are understanding that it could be close to $100 million. Can Mr. Junior Sammy deny or confirm? There's a company called First Line Securities Limited. They too have invested monies into this operation called Niquan. In fact, what I understand is that their investment could be anywhere between $50 to $60 million. Here are the monies that are involved. This company. I go on. There's something called Central Finance Cooperative Facility. They too invested money into this company called Niquan. Right? How much did they invest? Over $1 million. Over $1 million, we understand, they may have been invested, or in fact, it might be closer to $7 million that they may have invested. Then there's something called PECU. I think that means the Port Employees Credit Union. They too appeared as creditors. They want back their money. Then there's something called the JMMB Securities Limited. That's a bank. Our understanding is JMMB has an exposure of between $200 million to $350 million tied up in Niquan. We want some clarification. We are asking questions. We want answers on behalf of the people. Teachers Credit Union is tied up in this fiasco at Niquan as well. We would like the Teachers Credit Union to tell us how much they have invested. We have estimated, based on research that we have been conducted, that it could be close to $15 million invested by the Teachers Credit Union into this particular company. Could the Teachers Credit Union confirm or deny this? Then there's the Waterloo Capital Advisors Limited. They too have invested and they appeared in court. They won their money. But ladies and gentlemen of the media, Republic Bank, collateral agent of the note holders, they also appeared in the court. You know how much money the note holders and Republic Bank as collateral agent, financing arranger, is owing? Niquan is owing? Ladies and gentlemen, 175 million US dollars. That is almost $1.2 billion or roughly. That is what we are talking about here. And then there's something called IRP, Fire and Safety Limited. They too are calling for their monies. We don't know how much they invested. Radiant HA Limited, they too are calling. We are seeing a figure of $16,902. In fact, they are $16,902,222.13. That is what we are seeing. This company has invested into this Niquan debacle. Then there's something called Anti-Corrosion Technical Services Limited. Then there's George Aboud and Sons Limited. We are seeing a $1,082,000 invested. And there's something called PVF Limited. They have invested, they said, 67,000 US dollars into this project. Members of the media, what we are concerned about are the following financial institutions that seem to be tied up like a crab in a barrel, or like crabs in a barrel. Here are the banks, and we want to ask these banks that is give plenty trouble to small people when they want foreign exchange to travel. $200 they get it, $100. If you want a loan, you have to go on your knees to beg them for a loan. I want to ask these banks what due diligence they conducted, what technical feasibility studies they conducted before they engage in these funding efforts. First Citizens Bank, let them explain to us how they were able to invest $7 million US dollars. Multiply that by $7. And that's close to 50 million TT dollars. How did the First Citizens Bank invest that kind of money into Niquan? Are they going to get back that money? Or are they going to write off that money? We don't know. We're asking questions. We want also RBC to tell us how they got caught up in this arrangement. RBC Trust and the RBC Bank. We want Republic Bank Limited to tell us how they got tied up in this arrangement. Scotia Bank. These are questions that people are crying out for answers. And you know, Kirk, even the Bank of Guyana got tied up in this. The Bank of Guyana. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, we are concerned about the taxpayers and how the taxpayers are going to experience any returns on their investments. You know, whilst all this is going on, ladies and gentlemen of the media, Niquan Energy Trinidad Limited has gone to the ICC in the United Kingdom, and they have brought proceedings against the upstream, downstream company of Trinidad and Tobago. And do you know, members of the media, that the chairman of that ICC indicated that, you know what, this gas supply that they have stopped ought not have been stopped. And they are now making claims against the upstream, downstream company of TNT and the government of Trinidad and Tobago. So what does that mean? Are we going to be called upon as taxpayers to fund that? And by the way, the parent company of the Trinidad, of Niquan Energy Trinidad Limited, is called Niquan Energy LLC. They are based in the United States. You know, they have gone to the body in the United States that deals with dispute settlements. And they are accusing the government of Trinidad and Tobago of breaching bilateral treaties between the United States and Trinidad and Tobago. Now, if they win those matters, and they are supported by note holders, shareholders, stakeholders, if they win, what is going to happen to us in Trinidad and Tobago? Members of the media, I bring all these things to your attention so you can understand the con job, the scam that has visited our country under this so-called Niquan debacle that is about to go belly up. Therefore, in closing, we call the United National Congress calls for an independent criminal forensic investigation into all the circumstances surrounding this Niquan debacle, Niquan fiasco, whether it is Niquan Energy Trinidad Limited or Niquan Energy LLC. We need to get to the bottom of this and to ensure that the taxpayers of this country are protected against these midnight robbers that we have been exposed to at this time. So, members of the media, we have and we are accumulating documents which we are prepared to share with you on this particular development that is now engaging Trinidad and Tobago. And I want to warn the country, it is not yet over. We can end up as taxpayers being called upon to pay billions and billions of dollars to Niquan directors, both in the United States and in Trinidad and Tobago, to Niquan note holders, to Niquan shareholders, to Niquan stakeholders. That is what we are faced with in these arbitration matters that are now being undertaken both nationally, both internationally, in the UK, as well as the United States of America. So I'll pause at this point in time, and I'll invite my honorable colleague, the distinguished MP for Chaguanas East, the Honorable Vandana Mohit, who is our shadow MP with responsibility for social development, to address you on the total neglect of the Chaguanas East constituency by the People's national movement. And the people of that constituency, the young people in particular, are suffering as a result of the intense and palpable neglect by the PNM. I now invite my sister Mohit, to address you.